Imagine being a top Kenyan artist. You have money, you're popular, and the media, people everywhere are talking about you. You're unstoppable. Now fast forward a few years, you're not in a studio, you're not on a stage, but at a construction site, yes, mjengo, mixing concrete just to get some money to pay for your mother's cancer treatment. It's sad. And I'm not saying mjengo is a bad job, I'm not saying that. I've done it. But imagine the transition from a top artist to working in mjengo. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to Colonel Mustafa. But people came together and rescued Mustafa. And this is the story of how the internet saved Colonel Mustafa. First off, the man mostly speaks Swahili. Actually, let's just say that all his songs are in Swahili. That's because he was born and raised in Tanzania before his family moved to Kenya. Even his real name confirms what I'm saying. He's called Daudi Mustafa. But we don't know that name. What we know is Colonel Mustafa. And he was a top artist. Some would say he was that guy. His music career began after he met Lucas of Ogopa DJs. Now, not many Kenyans know how this guy looks like. He rarely took photos or even gave interviews. He was a mysterious producer. But more importantly, he made big songs. Mustafa was first in a group called Desert Vultures, a very weird name. And back in the early 2000s, he and his partner Nasty Thomas then formed Do Vultures and was signed to Ogopa DJs, one of the Kenyan groups that shaped the Kenyan sound.
So we used to go to the studio, tunatengeneza mziki yenye tunajua hii mziki maze it lasted for 2 years. And we did that. We survived on that. Unajua. Hapo ndo mziki. Hapo ndo tukaleta revolution ya mziki ya Kenya. Ikaingia kwa commercial.
Now back then, we actually had a Kenyan sound. But to most people I know, it all sounded the same. And honestly, no one cared. Originally, the group Desert Vultures had up to 20 members, but eventually it narrowed down to just 2, and the name now changed to Do Vultures, which had Nasty Thomas and Mustafa.
First ilikuwa ni Desert Vultures. When I entered there kulikuwa tayari na wasee ambao kulikuwa kina Young Steels, kulikuwa na kina Iron Finger, kulikuwa na Rende kabisa inajita Desert Vulture, ilikuwa inapiga sana simu kwa wakilisha show ya K-Shaka ambayo ilikuwa Nation. So kulikuwa na jamaa anajita Young Steel, alikuwa kila Friday lazima drop freestyle. So Desert Vulture ilikuwa kubwa sana, but kutokana na a lot of drugs za wasanii wengine tulikuwa almost 20. So by the time tunakam ku drop Mona Lisa tulikuwa tumebaki wawili. And the other members of Desert Vultures walikuwa ni hardcore sana. They didn't want to do kapuka.
Like other Kenyan legends like Gidi Gidi and Majimaji, they began their careers during jam sessions at Florida 2000 nightclub in Nairobi. And from that nightclub, they made several hits. But not everyone loved their songs. Some of their songs were considered too explicit, especially in a time when Kenya was still very conservative those days. There's this song called Kinyaunyau that was said to offend women or was degrading women. And someone had to talk. Apparently, Wow even made a response to it called Kibao Wow, using the same melody and beat. You can search for that song and listen to it. Then there was Adhiambo C featuring Dola Kabari, a song that was literally talking about Adhiambo Sianda, or butt for those who don't know. You know when someone refers to your butt as Sianda, you really have a big butt. Now other hits included Katika and Mona Lisa, which was their first song and it was huge.
The song became a hit, tukatoa hit after hit after hit, then pesa ikakuja, tunashukuru Mungu, but sisi tulifanya mziki kama passion.
These guys were dropping bangers and they became known. They had many fans, not just in Kenya, but also in Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and Uganda. So when I say Mustafa was a big deal, I'm not joking. In fact, in 2003, they formed their own label, Badman Camp, along with the Longomas and Mr. Googs and Vinnie Banton. But that label did not work, or it did not work out, so they went back to Ogopa DJs. A year later, they released their album Katika. That same year, they won Best Group Tanzania and Uganda category at the 2004 Kisima Music Awards and even got a nomination years later in 2008. But like many duos, Do Vultures split. Nasty Thomas just vanished. No one really knows where this guy went or what happened to him. But in this interview, Mustafa said that the last time they were together was in 2010.
Nastel and Norway, I think in 2010.
I don't know if that has changed, but musically, Nasty Thomas went silent. Mustafa went solo, and honestly, he was doing okay. He made songs like Lenga Stress, Mtani.com, and Hey Baby, featuring Maria, some say Maya. But around 2014 and 2015, Mustafa got into controversies. Maybe it was a strategy to boost his music, and it kinda worked. He released a song called Dodoma Singinda, which the media labeled controversial. But to me, it wasn't. It was allegedly banned for nudity. I didn't see any nudity in that song. Anyway, as I said earlier, Mustafa was getting into controversies. And honestly, that's what pushed his fame more than the music itself. Let's just discuss a few. Probably the most well-known is the relationship with Maria. It was a serious relationship. They were together for about 5 years. Many thought it would lead to something like a wedding or something close. But when your affairs are constantly in the media, people keep talking about it. It usually doesn't survive. I don't know why. But we've seen it happen many times, and it's still happening today. And this relationship was not different. Mustafa and Maria eventually split. At first they were saying it was due to religious differences, but it turned out to be something deeper than that.
Najua Maria amekuwa akiongea vitu mingi sana kunihusu. Alikuwa naive, sijui nilimtumia. But the thing is simple. Mimi nilipata akiwa mweusi nikampaka blue band akawa fresh.
Years later, Mustafa shared a different version, admitting that Maria cheated on him multiple times, including with a Tanzanian media personality named Ruben Dege.
Alikuwa nani jamaa mwenyewe? Kwa sababu alishapita.
Ruben Dege.
He also mentioned frequent arguments and tension between them. On the other hand, Maria reportedly said the relationship ended because of Mustafa's toxic and abusive behavior, showing that the two had very different views on why they broke up. Anyway, after that, Mustafa had a brief relationship with Huda Monroe in 2014. These photos of them trended online, very hot photos, and this was just a few weeks after Huda had broken up with Prezo. It was so weird.
Prezo kwanza, he's old news unajua. So we can't talk about him right now. After that tumwongelee Mustafa kwa amekuja. Sasa unajua he's my man now. So yeah.
It says that they only dated for 2 weeks. Huda later claimed that they never dated at all, saying it was just to promote a song they did together. But Mustafa gave a different response.
Mimi na Huda tulikuwa na mapicha kibao kuonyesha Huda nishapiga.
Speaking of Prezo, Mustafa and him had a very public, nasty beef at one point.
What's up with you and Mustafa?
Who's that?
Oh, okay. We just went there.
Who's that?
I don't know. Mustafa, he's a Kenyan musician. He's tall.
Oh, he's a basketball player?
But later on, they reconciled and even began working together. But all of that was nothing compared to what happened in this show.
Yo, Tom Nyama everywhere. Kutaka kumwona Tom Nyama everywhere. Piano hasta la vista, baby tunde babilele mudashuru mudarawada. Mtoto wa nje ya ndoa, mtoto aliyelaniwa. Aya irere mwamba.
In 2013, Mustafa joined a very controversial television show called Nairobi Diaries. This show completely changed how the public saw Mustafa. He got into love triangles, fight with co-stars. Everything that was happening in that show was very controversial. During this time, his music was starting to fade, and the fans, the people, even began saying that Mustafa was becoming famous for clout and not music. Mustafa also dated Naughty Flo, but that relationship again went nowhere. Later, Mustafa described that relationship as messy. He said Naughty Flo was controlling and violent, and things got bad that Naughty Flo was biting him and causing physical injuries.
Alikuwa na kuuma.
Ilikuwa noma. Yake ilikuwa more of war. I think sijaipata hiyo kwa dem mwingine. Hiyo vita. Yeah, it was too much.
He claimed that she would get angry for no clear reason, making the relationship chaotic. Mustafa also said that he never fought back physically because it would lead to serious consequences.
Sana jamnyama kama mimi sasa piga mtoto mzuri makofi.
Usione hivi?
Vumilie. Mimi kuna mida yake tu ndo nampiga. Lakini eti makofi nampiga makofi analia, "Oh baby, no. Siwezi haribusi." Usiku sasa tunakutana tu.
And these are just a few of the controversies. There's even more, but this video is not about that. The point is, you now understand why it was considered as controversial. Unfortunately, Nairobi Diaries came to an end around 2017. And remember, this was now his main hustle, not music. So when the show ended, it marked the beginning of his real struggles. But even before we get into that, it's important to note that Mustafa lived a very flashy life. He even said it later that most of the money he earned was spent recklessly. We'll talk about it more in a bit. Now, by 2020, Colonel Mustafa had basically disappeared. He wasn't making music anymore. There were no big appearances, and even the controversies were not there. People assume that Mustafa had quietly retired, like his former partner Nasty Thomas, but that's not what happened. He tried to make a comeback, and that was in 2022, when he made a song called Maloko. And it was like an attempt to make a return to the music scene after nearly a decade. But Maloko flopped. It only had 300 views on YouTube at that time. He had high hopes, even sold his car to finance the music video.
First I sold my car. Murano niliuza nikashoot video ya Maloko, nikaspendi karibu 400 to 450. I thought the video ingehit, but it flopped 8 months ago.
Sadly, the song didn't become popular. People didn't like it much, and that's when his problems really began. And when Mustafa was struggling, his friends disappeared. Some family members stayed away. He had a very hard time, both emotionally and with money. He couldn't even afford food. Yes, Mustafa was not affording food. Music was no longer helping Mustafa, and the people in the industry, they didn't help Mustafa either.
Marafiki zangu wakaanza kuscreenshot zile message na waomba pesa 250 na ile amanisaidie mama, wanataka kuanza kuzisambaza.
Mustafa even moved into a bedsitter in Utawala and began looking for jobs to survive. Eventually, the only job he could get was at a construction site or mjengo. And when he was doing that job at first, he was wearing a hoodie and also a face mask just to hide his identity. He didn't want anyone to know. In fact, it was a secret for nearly a year.
Nilijificha. Nimekuwa nikijificha for 1 year. Mimi sister kitu kama hiyo kitu kitoke. Nimejificha for 1 year. Nikijenga mjengo, nikivaa hood na nikivaa mask. Ndio usijue colonel ni nani. Because nikifunika tattoo, hutawaijua mimi ni nani.
But somehow, someone eventually filmed Mustafa at the site and shared that video online. Now, this clip went viral. Within hours, his name was trending across Kenyan Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. It was everywhere. People were shocked, and some were confused, sad, others were angry. But Mustafa was doing what most people in his shoes would do. He was hustling. He didn't tell anyone. He wasn't looking for attention. He just wanted to help his mother. At first, the video got a lot of hate. People were quick to judge Mustafa, wondering how a once famous artist ended up like this. They called Mustafa reckless and said he blew up all the money. And to be fair, he kind of did. In a 2023 interview with Nation, Mustafa actually came clean and said that he wasted most of the money. His biggest regret was not thinking about the future. He spent big on parties, the women, the fast life, all that life. But he was young. He made mistakes.
Ana regret akili sikuwa na hii akili nilikuwa nayo mpaka vile nimeanguka. Kama ningelikuwa na akili time za Mona Lisa huko, then I'll be like more than, ingekuwa rich more than nataki na Davido na kina P-Square.
And also advised young artists to invest while they can, because money and fame come and go. It's up to you to use the opportunities wisely. And it's true. But that was the past. Now Mustafa was here, doing what he had to do to pay the bills, which is better than begging. And later, many Kenyans actually praised Mustafa for stepping up and doing what needed to be done. Taking on manual work wasn't a sign of failure. It was a sign of resilience. People admired his hustle and showed Mustafa a lot of support.
Haikuwa kutaka kwangu kujipata kwenye mjengo, nilijipata kwa sababu ya mama, sababu ya mkoru, ilibidi tu nijitolee nimsaidie sana kwa sababu yani yeye mimi bila yeye sijui.
Behind the scenes, Mustafa was dealing with a lot. His mother had been diagnosed with stage 2 lymphoma cancer. And if you know how things go in Kenya, cancer treatment isn't cheap. The bills are too much. Chemotherapy, hospital visits, medication, all of it costs money, a lot of money. In an interview with Mungaiv, he explained that there were no consistent gigs, no royalties, and barely any income. And the only thing that was there was mjengo, which he did just to afford the bills and medication. One thing about Mustafa, he didn't hide behind excuses. He wasn't begging for help. He just did what he had to do, like a man. In the interview, he wasn't even asking people to contribute money. He just wanted a job. And that honestly, that pain, that humility, it touched a lot of people. The fans, celebrities, and media outlets started talking, but more importantly, they started helping. A paybill number was shared and people were donating a lot of money. Almost 1 million shillings was raised. This was a beautiful thing. People were standing with Mustafa.
Nikachekwa. After nichekwe, after ile video mdengo kulik, nilichekwa on Friday. But Saturday, Wakenya wenye huruma walianza kunichangia.
And thanks to the funds raised online, Mustafa's mother was able to continue with her treatment. Slowly, things began to improve. As of 2024, Mustafa said that his mother was doing okay and had recovered from cancer. He even began a clothing and sneaker store called the Moose Shop. Not sure if the shop is still running, but at least he was trying, doing something to earn a living. Mustafa has spoken openly about how the kindness of strangers not only saved his mother, but also gave him the strength to keep going. He had considered even quitting music, but that changed later.
Yani mimi ilikuwa ni miracle, ilikuwa ni miujiza, because nilikuwa nishakufa moyo kabisa. Yani nilikuwa kwenye shimo la giza kabisa. Na nilikuwa yani.
With his mother health improving and his condition restored, Mustafa returned back to the studio and was dropping new music. In 2023, he made a song called Umenikumbuka, a powerful song reflecting his struggle and comeback, and was also like a thank you to everyone who helped Mustafa. He also dropped another emotional track called Mpe Muda. Still in that year, he released the Umenikumbuka EP, and judging from the reviews and views, it performed fairly well. We can't condemn someone for trying. Mustafa is proving that he still has potential to make music. Just recently in this year, he released a song called Palm Trees with Aaron, just proving that he's back and better than ever. He's even performing at events now, and Mustafa seems to be doing okay. He may or may not top the charts again. He might not return to the flashy lifestyle he used to live, but he's earned something far greater: respect. What happened to Mustafa could have broken him. Instead, it became his turning point. He didn't care about being a superstar. He just did what he had to do to pay the bills and care for his mother. The internet gave Mustafa a second chance. It helped Mustafa to support his mom and start rebuilding his life and career. It brought him back to the music and also showed that there's still kindness out there. But his story also teaches us some very hard lessons, that fame is not forever. Artists need long-term plans, not just hit songs. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Remember to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's meet in the next video.